Hello, Wilson families. It's Thad. During this pandemic, we've certainly worked hard to create Wilson Connect Ed, our online learning experience for students. And we've also thought of how we can be helpful for parents. And we decided to start an Ask the Expert series because we have such wonderful experts in our own Wilson parent community. Hi, Melanie. It's good to see you today.
Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So Wilson families and friends, I'm really pleased because we have Melanie McKean here for our next section of our Ask the Expert series. Melanie's an expert in the areas of mental health. She's a psychiatrist for the St. Louis Behavioral Medicine Institute, as well as she's held adjunct faculty and courtesy appointments at St. Louis University and Missouri Baptist Medical Center. Melanie might be most familiar to you because she's the parent of a fourth grader and that of an alum as well. And she's also a member of our board of trustees. So she's been an amazing champion and advocate for Wilson. And we're very glad that you could spend some time with us and sharing your professional expertise as well. So thank you, Melanie.
You're welcome.
So I've had the good fortune of hearing you speak on this topic a little bit. And some tips that you could give to families during the coronavirus situation. And you've emphasized the importance of routines and boundaries and personal space as we were in these stay-at-home orders. Now that we're moving into summer, would you talk about your recommendations there about maintaining or changing those kinds of suggestions?
Sure. So, again, as you mentioned, with all of the online learning and how families have been maybe kind of thrown into this situation where with that accompanied by parents oftentimes working from home, everybody's in this enclosed space and around each other. And so, yes, like a lot of what folks in my field have emphasized is it's important to, maintain some kind of routine, even though that has evolved and adjusted over the last several weeks, and making sure that voices are heard, feelings are validated, and that might include that people need private time. You may be thinking like, well, you aren't doing your sports and your other activities, and you haven't had, so you have tons of downtime. But it's not natural to be on top of each other the way we have been. And as the school year winds down and we're evolving into summer, and the weather hopefully stays nice, not too hot, although it's St. Louis, so we know that that's not a guarantee. We'll have some more opportunities to get outdoors, and there are some activities that are opening up, but still, likely we're going to be spending a lot of time at home and with our kind of core family group. And so I still feel like it's excruciatingly important to maintain some sort of good sleep schedule. Sleep hygiene is something that I drive home with in my practice with all of my patients. I'm like, it was the first thing to go. It almost always is the first thing to go when we kind of get out of sorts with our routine. So even though that may have changed with online learning and maybe the school day starting later, and now with summertime and there not being as much structure, it's going to be really easy to get kind of off schedule. So maintaining some sort of routine is going to be great with that and with your sleep. And, again, we're going to have maybe a sweet spot of a little bit of weather that's going to let us be outside a lot and probably just naturally have some alone time. But then we may be in a situation where it is really hot and we're back inside a lot. So it's really important that both adults and kids have a space that they feel like that's their own. That may naturally be their bedroom, but it might be a different space. And we also need to let them exercise that, I think, as they want to. If a kid's spending their whole time in their room, maybe that's one thing. But if they seem to be a little bit more irritable, they seem to be a little bit out of sorts, that may be an indication that your child needs a little bit of time on their own. Or again, yourself too. And as a parent and a human, if you also are just a little bit more irritable, a little bit you're getting feedback that maybe you're not the easiest person to be around right now, that may be a signal or a clue that you should spend some time on your own. Even a short period of time, because I know that personally myself and my spouse working, our kids busy, even though our schedules may not be the back-to-back it is, things are still a little hectic, and it may seem like, well, when am I going to carve this time out? But even a few minutes a day can can be quite beneficial. And even walking outside or just going to a different area. So I think it's still going to be really important that kids can voice their feelings. And if they aren't able to articulate that, little kids just aren't as good at doing that and saying that they need that. Providing that, you know what, maybe do you want to go watch a movie, or do you want to go like kick the soccer ball around outside for a little bit, and give them some time to do that, because honestly, we're going to have a lot of time.
That's wonderful advice. I mean, I think that you hit on so many points, the importance of sleep, being able to also hear voices or anticipate if the child isn't articulating something that you need to ask them, and being able to provide that space.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. We are going to have hopefully some more favorable weather to get out and do some activities, but we are still going to spend a lot of inside time.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for those suggestions. And maybe building from that a little bit. So we've been through several weeks of stay-at-home orders, and now different regulations are being relaxed, and we have some more opportunities to get out or to maybe be amongst other people. At this time, can you talk a little bit about that dynamic and how being reintroduced to the public, maybe how kids might respond to that? What should we look out for? Should this be a really easy transition, or might there be bumps because we've been together and at home for so long?
Sure. So I think it's natural for there to be maybe a little bit of apprehension about things, because we're kind of very quickly told, like, here's a lot of things we need to do to keep ourselves safe. That's probably what you've communicated to your children. And especially for those that are a lot younger, it could be a little bit confusing if very rapidly things might switch the other way. So I think each family certainly has to make their decisions about how comfortable they feel about the things that they might do this summer. And that might be if they decide to actually take a vacation and go somewhere. That might be about going out to eat at a restaurant. That might be about resuming a sport, and kind of how you're gonna navigate that. And there certainly aren't any rights or wrongs here. It's certainly the way people are feeling about things. There aren't right and wrong ways to feel. Every person and every family has to gauge their comfort level with that. Again, kids, depending upon their age and their development, may or may not be able to articulate how they're feeling about that. And kids in particular have a tendency to, a lot of their symptoms come out, or mental health symptoms come out actually in physical symptoms. So like stomach aches, headaches, irritability sometimes. So, they aren't going to say like, Mom, I feel depressed, or Dad, I feel stressed out. Some of them might, some of the older kids at the Wilson School, or your kids that are alum, but your younger kids aren't. And so, if they've been told a lot of like, this is what we need to do to be safe, it's important to not hug grandma and grandpa because you might make them sick. And then if something just changes, I think it's going to be good to have conversations ahead of time. A lot of things we can't plan right now, but the things that we can, we should do that. And you could like talk through that and give them an opportunity to ask questions and be honest and be truthful about, yeah, I'm a little bit worried about that too, but maybe we'll try this. And if it seems to not work out for us, then maybe we'll wait a little bit longer. I think it's also making sure that everyone understands that not all anxiety is bad. Stress really does help us to do a lot of really good things. It only really becomes a negative if it starts to impede our progress and our productivity. But it's okay to tell a child, like, yeah, like those butterflies in your stomach or that way you're feeling, that's actually your brain doing like things that it's supposed to do to keep you safe in a lot of situations. And if they aren't comfortable with doing it, I don't think it's the right time to push people to do things though either. Again, I think for better or for worse, we're going to have a lot of time to get adjusted to things. And if they don't seem to be too keen at it, I think we need to validate that and say, you know what, I hear you, I understand you. Okay, maybe we'll try again in another week or two.
Boy, that's really helpful to be able to help explain to a child that what you might feel, those butterflies, like you described, that a little bit of anxiousness or nervousness is your brain helping to keep you safe. And being able to talk through that and what should we listen to and what should we extend ourselves with, that's a complete family decision, and that helps too. Your advice is very helpful there. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Terrific. So in thinking about this situation too, we know that even though things are being relaxed, we know we're in this for the long haul. You know, we have made adjustments that need to continue. We need to reintroduce and all of those things, but we're going to be experiencing adjustments for some time. So with that mindset, you know, can you speak a little bit to your advice or any thoughts or anything that you're seeing at this time?
Yeah. So there's been a lot of good literature out there about everything that we're going through and the things that we could be feeling. And one topic that I feel like has really been on point is grief, and that a lot of what we were experiencing, even at the onset of this, but certainly throughout it, has been aspects of grief. And if you are someone that has experienced a loss, whether that's been, again, literally like a family member dying, or maybe you've dealt with like a chronic illness, it can be some grief and loss with that. You may be familiar with the stages of grief, and those are denial, bargaining, anger, depression, and acceptance. And I've been walking through those with a lot of my patients because we've just, again, experienced lots of different stages. And, you know, whether it was like mid to end March, or, you know, the first half of April, second half of April, and there's kind of these 2-week blocks that I've been kind of seeing like different things evolve with this. And, you know, now some would say, well, we should be to the acceptance point, but that's the thing with grief. Like, it doesn't just, you don't just reach necessarily that and stay put there. You can certainly circle back to some of those others. And it doesn't necessarily have to be anger either. Again, with kids, they might be like really upset about the stuff that they missed out on. But they might also just be like, again, really stressed out, or they might stomp their feet and be angry about it. But at this stage in the game, again, like you said, we're in this for the long haul. What I've been kind of talking about with folks is exercising our resilience muscle. There isn't a lot of rapid change happening now. Even though things are being relaxed, they are certainly not being relaxed at the pace that they were restricted. And so we're going to have time to get adjusted to this. And that's challenging at times. If you're someone who's a planner, I'm a planner, and I can't even know what I'm going to do in a few weeks, let alone maybe at the start of the school year or 6 months from now, like committing to events. Like, everything seems to be an analysis, like a risk benefit analysis here. So I think it's a good opportunity to talk about resilience, and to talk about what that means. And again, for smaller kids, you're going to have to kind of like break that down into terminology that they can understand. But you know, it's a great opportunity to model being able to persist and being able to say, okay, well, these are the things that we can control. And these are the things we can do to keep our communication going, to keep ourselves healthy. And we just kind of have to wait this one out. And that may make us feel uncomfortable at times. And again, similar in the vein of the stages of grief. So there may be moments of feeling sad about things that didn't get to happen, and vacations that are getting canceled, and sports that aren't getting played, and other kinds of loss. But it circles all back to stuff I said at the beginning about validating. Like, there is no right way to feel right now. If your kid is upset about things, validate it. If they're content, can validate that too. Like, not everybody's upset about everything to some extent. For some people, this has been, you know, a pleasant slowing down of things. And I think it's going to give families a really good opportunity to evaluate what are the activities that at the end of the day we feel are worth resuming, to reevaluate your schedule, because a lot of us were very much on the go, go, go. And we're going to have some time to evaluate that and determine, like, what do we want our schedule to look like depending upon the things that do reopen. Not all of it's going to be our decision per se, but the things that are. But I think, again, grand opportunity for us to get to model some behaviors in communication, in talking about our feelings, but then also just kind of saying, okay, we just kind of have to accept what's happening and roll with it.
Yeah, that's powerful because you're exactly right. Things changed so quickly, but now as we are resuming some other activities, that's at a different pace. And
Mhm.
there are some factors that we can control. It is important to continue to make sure we validate with the kids and being able to, as a family, make decisions about how we, gently take these
Mhm.
steps. And yes, listening to your children and acknowledging how they're feeling. All of those things are super helpful. Melanie, you've been terrific. I think that the parents are going to find this of great value. The ideas of making sure that we maintain our routines, but still make sure that we are thoughtful about our next steps, taking good care of ourselves, listening to each other. All of those things are great pieces of advice. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we wrap up?
Oh, I think the only other piece, and it's in somewhat of the same vein of Steve Lawrence when he was also presenting on his topic of expertise, is there are silver linings here. And so I've just been really, when I've been working with folks and talking with them about, find those gems, find the things that actually through this experience have been positive ones, because they are out there. Even though there are a lot of things that a lot of loss we have gone through and a lot of things we've had to adapt and change with. Again, that's not all bad. Like, there are some silver linings here, and whether that's getting to spend more time as a family, um, getting to start some new family traditions, or just really talking to each other and taking the time to listen. I think that those are invaluable. But if you haven't found one yet, then that would be a nice summer project. Look for a silver lining in all of this, to remember moving forward.
Wonderful advice. Melanie, your family's wonderful for Wilson. Thanks for all that you do. You guys continue to take care, and thanks so much for being with us today.
You're welcome. I'm happy to have done it.